there, welcome to Ridge Church. We're so glad that you're here with us, whether you're tuning in from right here in Charlotte, North Carolina, or from anywhere else. At Ridge Church, we know that life is messy, and we hope the message you're about to hear encourages you, challenges you, and reminds you that you're never alone. Thanks for listening in.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. I've never actually watched Parks and Rec myself, so I have no idea what Chris is talking about. I don't know whether to be taken as a compliment or be offended, but it's all good. I haven't been offended since the 5th grade, so I'm one of the maybe few people you can come and tell me what you thought of the sermon after the sermon and be brutally honest and won't bother me at all. My name is Patrick, by the way, if you've never had the pleasure to meet. Hey to a bunch of you friends, family I see out there. Love this series. I'm excited to get to kind of finish the series off. I loved in part one, the way kind of Chris introed the series before he got into his part one talk, using one of my favorite proverbs, like one of the most important proverbs, I think, where Solomon advised all of us with this great wisdom to guard our hearts, because it's out of our hearts is what comes all the good things of life. And I think one of the greatest ways to check our hearts, like we've been talking about in this series, is to simply think about what it is we love. Think about what are the things that I care about. So I just want to kick off today talking about a couple of things that I love, that I care about. I love my wife, and I love Newcastle United Football Club. It's okay if you never heard of them. Most people haven't. It's a little football club in Newcastle upon Tyne, England. It means soccer to us as a soccer team. I loved Newcastle before I loved my wife. Like I loved them, started loving them way back in the 90s when I was a kid, before I met my wife. My wife, on the other hand, does not love Newcastle United. She doesn't, hate them. She doesn't dislike them. It's not as though she's a supporter of a different club or something. It's just not really her interest, right? It's like she doesn't really care. She could probably have gone her whole entire life, much like you, if I wouldn't be talking about this today in church. Never even hearing of Newcastle United Football Club in this other country, across the pond. So why would my introverted personality wife, who I know is cringing, not liking me, even mention her from stage? Say, why would she? Especially in the pre-COVID days, pretty much every single weekend of the year for years and years and years, welcome, sometimes just a couple, sometimes a dozen, sometimes maybe more than 20 neighbors and friends and strangers to her from all over the city. All the Newcastle fans I could scrounge up and convert. That's pretty much all of them. I pretty much know them all. Why would she be okay with inviting them into our home, taking over whatever kind of space we're going to watch the game and being loud and shouting and usually bumming because the team was so bad for so long? Why could I even sometimes catch her in another room, again, because she's an introvert and didn't want to join the party, but she's checking in on the game. She's checking to see how the team's doing. Maybe even catch her sneaking into my closet, taking one of my Newcastle jerseys and wearing it herself as she's doing here. This will help paint the best picture. I think it was almost 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago. This church, actually, we celebrated as a church, it was more than that ago, but we had a 10-year anniversary as a church. I had been working here for 10 years at the time, and it was probably one of the biggest surprises of my life. Some people at the church kind of put it together, sent my wife and I to England. We're going to send us to a Newcastle game. This is what this picture is taken there at their stadium. We'll jump to that video in a second. They had put this whole trip together for us, and I actually learned about it kind of last minute, it was a surprise, soon before we go. I look at the schedule. They've got us flying in on a Monday, sending us to a game on the weekend. Well, Monday night, there's an away game Newcastle plays. So I'm okay, we land in London. My wife is okay. We jump in a rental car, drive with the stick shift on the left side. And I don't know if you've done the roundabouts, the wrong direction. I could feel her, and she wasn't saying much because she knew I just cared about getting to the game on time, like this game we weren't even planning to go to in this godforsaken place called Burnley, which is in the northwest of England. But I knew she feared for her life as I was running up on the curbs of the roundabouts. I could feel that vibe coming off her. We finally get there. We park in this mud pit. It's wintertime, so it's freezing cold. We drove through some freezing rain. Everything about it is horrible. We're traipsing through the mud. We're tracking mud everywhere we go. And then I'll show you this video. This will like help you appreciate what I drug my wife into, right? In England, they separate fans. Like fans of each team can't be together. Like the police keep you separate. So they put all of us away fans, 2,000 or 3,000 of us, in this, what has to be described as a holding pen. This stadium is like 100 years old. It was just covered in mud and beer, and all you could smell was beer and somehow urine. I'm sorry to say, I don't want to go like too crass, on a Sunday morning at church, but I don't know if you kind of noticed the crowd there. I'll tell you the crowd, at least of us away section from Newcastle. Newcastle's like a working blue collar kind of city, town. 2,000 or 3,000 of us, Newcastle fans, pretty much all either 25-year-old drunk British males or 55-year-old drunk British males. And then it was my wife and I. And my wife was one of the very few females that I spotted throughout the time. I'm just trying to paint you a picture. It's not really her scene, not really her vibe, not really her people, like, I don't know how it works, like the female mind. I don't know if females, like before, like you meet your person, if it's like you dream of this, romantic guy whisking you away to Europe one day on this like European adventure. This was not it. Like, this was not like how I think if she ever had that, this was not how it was going to be. So we stand up through the whole game. I mentioned it's freezing cold. She had thankfully thought ahead. We had layers, gloves. She even bought like the hand warmer things for inside of the gloves, or it would have been, survival would have been tough. 2 hours long. We never sit down. Cheering, screaming. My team's pretty bad. We win our second game of the season, which is like halfway through the season. So everybody's going nuts. These 55-year-old drunk men, they're picking her up, like hugging her, like bouncing her up and down. She's like, never complained the whole time. At one point, maybe around the middle, like we're pretty cold. She's like, I'm going to look for something to eat or drink, And I'm like, be my guest. I'm not leaving this, but like I'm here, for the long haul. So I was not a good husband. I sent her off into this ravenous crowd, and she's got some stories that she could share with you about that experience of trying to get something from the concession stand. The game ends. There's only one time, I couldn't even call this, she never complained. One time, like we were winning, we went up a goal. And so there's a police officer, security, on the outside of every single row, separating us away fans in our seats from all the home fans on both sides, okay? But at one point, all the away fans, I wasn't familiar with this particular song, but they start singing a song to all the 20,000 home fans there in the Turf Moor, Burnley Stadium, about what they think of their city, what they think of their town that they're in, and about some of their mothers. And my wife kind of turns to me and whispers, they're shouting, She's like, this is not very nice. I want to leave. I was like, no, we're not leaving. Like, we're staying here. That's, no complaining. It was just, voicing her thoughts. So the game ends, we win. We're, jumping up and down, celebrating. And she's like, okay, it's 11:30. It's a Monday night. All these people got to go to work the next morning, way over in Newcastle, like hours away. And nobody leaves. Nobody moves. My wife's like, let's go. Like, we haven't even been to our Airbnb yet. Like, we still got like the luggage from the airport in the rip. Like, we've been nowhere. We changed clothes in like a Tesco on the side of the road, like gas station. She's like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, no, we're not leaving. Look, everybody, like, there's a party celebrating. So for another half hour in the freezing cold rain, this is another scene just to paint for all the away fans. You can see the entire stadium has left. They've gone home. The groundskeepers are done. All the teams are gone. All the home fans, they've gone home. Just the 2,000 or 3,000 Newcastle fans just singing, cheering about our team. What a great day. Second win of the season. Amazing. And my wife she was probably shooting the video. I don't know. She has nothing to do. She was just like along for the ride. Finally, the police, the security, you can see they're like trying to force everybody out. Like, you guys, we're locking this down. You've got to go home. Don't you have to be at work the next day? Finally, we all leave. We drive, it was like 2 a.m. or so by the time we finally got to our Airbnb, like got the stuff in. Why in the world would my wife, this is far from her interest, why would she ever go along with this? The only theory I've ever come up with is that she cares about me. And when we care about someone, we tend to start to care about the things that the people we care about care about. Now, I'm warning you in advance. I've got to make a hard shift in where we're going in the sermon right now. We got to talk about something pretty controversial. It's going to be I said all that. Maybe we got a few laughs, smiles, but it's going to be hard. We got to talk about now because you got to do that in church. Sometimes we've got to talk about hard truths. And I understand I'll make some enemies. Some of you may even feel the need to stand up and walk out. It's okay. I don't get offended. You might. Disney World is not a place designed for human beings. All due respect to God. I don't know how creation worked and all that, but like God is this architect designing all these parts of the world. Did not design Central Florida, Orlando, Florida, this area where Disney World is built for humans to inhabit. God was like, this is for gators and swamps and this human, it's not meant to like sustain human life. This is like the bottom, you guys. There's nothing good happening here. And somehow, I don't think God ever in all his infinite wisdom imagined that it could be a vacation spot, much less the number one vacation spot in the world. Disney World is the number one in the whole world. You guys have seen other places in the world, right? At least like on videos or YouTube or something. Have you seen some of the wonders of the earth? Like all these other countries, these amazing, beautiful scenes. Orlando, Florida, like swamps and gators and the humidity. Like once you start sweating at Disney World, you're just done for the day. You're just caked in that sweat. That's what you're going to be walking around in until you can hit a shower later on. Disney World is structurally designed at its core to be a miserable place. Think about it. It's like somebody took all the things that we hate, spending lots of money, crying, screaming children, really hot-natured, bad, like piece of land, long lines, and just put it all into one thing, all into one place, and charged us a bunch of money to go there. Disney World is not the happiest place on earth. I don't know how they get away. Like this, the fact that they got so many of you to believe this marketing is genius. Like whatever marketing skills they've got. And I get it. There's like that 2 minutes a day. You know, by the way, show of hands, if you've been to Disney World, you've set foot inside like the Magic Kingdom or something like that. Well, first service, there was a lot more of you, but it's still like the vast majority of you, it looks like, you've been to Disney World. Sorry. That's unfortunate. I know there's that moment at the end of the day, especially if you've been like with your family. Disney World's not my interest, by the way. Okay? I don't know if you gathered that. It's not one of my interests. It's not my thing. In fact, literally, I preached, this same talk pretty much just now at 9:30. Didn't think of this till after, but I was like, maybe I'll share that. It's never been my interest. When I was in the 5th grade, however old you are in the 5th grade, I shattered my school's like all-time record for selling those World's Finest chocolate bars. You ever seen those? They're like awesome chocolate. I think I sold like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of World's Finest chocolate bars, like shattered the record. And the prize, if you like broke the record, or they had this whole thing, they tell the kids like, I'll go sell a bunch of stuff and you win this prize. Well, the prize for selling all this and like I broke the school's record was this all expenses paid, epic, the whole deal to Disney World. So I'm a 5th grader. I don't know if that's like, I don't know what prime age is. I'm like, I'll take the money. Like, what kind of check are you going to write? Took the money, like, wasn't even a thought. Like, Disney World, just whatever. Even as a kid, it's not just like I'm a grumpy old adult. Just, I don't know, just never appealed to me. I don't get it, personally. The tickets, like, so you've been to Disney World. You know how much it costs. Like, take my family of 5. It's going to be $1,000 to go for a day to Disney World, right? That's a chunk of change. That's a lot of money. And not just for the tickets, but like, you got to travel there. The hotels, like, when I see how much we're paying for a hotel at Disney World, anywhere else in the world, I get excited. I see that hotel charge. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not excited about spending that much money, but we're going to be living like kings and queens tonight. This is going to be a nice hotel. Nope. Not at Disney World. $150, they put you in a Motel 6. They painted a mouse on the wall, and you're like just grateful. You're like, oh, thank you so much. What a deal we found. Half of us are sleeping on the floor, I know, but hey, at least we got in. Like, at least we're here, All over Disney World, all I see, you're probably better parents than these people, but all I see I don't see happy, smiling children. I see screaming, crying children and parents, like, who are just, like, we would leave if we hadn't spent all this money to be here. It's like, oh, we got to stay. We're all sweaty and uncomfortable, and lines at Disney World, 5.5 hours, people wait in a line to ride one ride. 5.5 hours. So You spend $1,000, you take your family of 5, you're going to drive down there 8 hours to Orlando, Florida, stand in line 5.5 hours. Kids have fun, 60 seconds. Yay, that was great. Daddy, can we ride it again? Yeah. Nope, not today. Not before they close. Like, we'll start the 8-hour journey back home. My wife loves Disney World. She's always loved Disney World. Disney World is like very much an interest of my wife. She loves Disney World so much. I would rather take a beating with a brick stick than take children to Disney World. But I've done it many times. Many times. I think, you can ask my wife later, usually with a smile on my face. I've done it. Why? Why? When it's not my interest, when I clearly feel strongly about it. Because we care about what the people we care about. We'll get more into that in a second. To show you how much my wife loves and has loved Disney World, I should have asked her how many years this was. To save money, she got a season pass to Disney World. Thank you so much. That's going to help me. She got a season pass to Disney World. Maybe, oh, cool, Patrick. Like, you guys used to live like near Disney World, like down the Orlando area? Nope. We lived in Charlotte, right here, but season pass to Disney World. She got bit so hard by the Disney bug, she started paying extra money to go run around Disney World, run races at Disney World. I'm like, you can run for free. Did you know this? Did you realize this is allowed? So I got a picture here. My wife, she's run a couple marathons, 5 or so, half marathons. She's run a bunch of different races. I go, to support her, and I get up at 4 a.m., make these signs. The kids make signs, meet her at the finish line. I jump on the buses, and I go meet her in the marathons at like 4 different stops throughout. And I got a different sign for everyone, hopefully just to like make her smile, cheer her on. And she even, I think just one time, ran something called the Dopey. Have you ever heard of the Dopey at Disney World? There's Cinderella's castle, She's got all her medals from running the Dopey. The Dopey is accurately named. You do a long weekend of races. On Thursday, you run a 5K, Friday a 10K, Saturday a half marathon, and a full marathon on the Sunday. So I forget. Like, I don't know. You total up, whatever. It's like how many ever miles that is, you guys can do that in your head. And one of these times, I remember I went out so early. It was during a Newcastle United football match, which I forgot. I maybe didn't say early on. I love Newcastle United so much. I haven't missed a game, at least on TV, in 15 years. And 15 years only because it was about that long ago that the USA allowed like soccer to be shown on TV like all the time, where you could watch every game. Like it was the first time it was even available to be done in such a manner, at least European soccer. So what a sacrifice on my part, right? Like I had to like watch the game later and turn off my phone so I don't like hear any scores or anything that happened. Why? Like if I didn't care so deeply about someone, and really my whole family, my kids as well, like about 4 people who care so deeply about Disney World, you couldn't pay me enough money to go to Disney World. But like I said, we care about what the people we care about, right? You guys all know how this goes. This isn't something new. You've experienced this. You know that you have begun to care about what the people you care about. Maybe some of you guys got married, and before you got married, you didn't care about making the bed. You didn't care about where the dishes went after you finished eating. You didn't care about like how the clothes came out of life. You didn't care about so many things. And then all of a sudden, you were living with someone who you cared deeply about, and they happened to care deeply about if the bed were made or not, or where the dishes went, or how it all these kind of things happened, and you started to actually care about something that you never cared about before. Or maybe some of you had kids. I know when I had kids, I had heard of the Avengers. I had like heard of Marvel, like I knew it existed, That's where like Marvel, DC, I don't know the difference. I don't know who goes where. I don't know which universe. Don't know anybody's name. Don't know what happened. Don't know the story. Don't know nothing. Now, after years and years of living with these children that I love and care deeply about, who happen to care deeply about the Avengers, I can tell you, I don't know, most things. I could probably quote to you most movies that I've seen over and over and over and over and tell you most people's backstories. I was thinking about this morning. I don't think I ever, before I had my daughter, I'd never had attended a ballet, like a dance where you watch people dance ballet. And I don't know how many I've attended now, but a bunch. Because I care about someone who cares about that. So I've begun to care. But how does this happen? How does something like this happen in such selfish creatures, right? Creatures usually so wrapped up in just our own interests. That's kind of why we call them interests, because they're our interests. But how do we begin to care about someone else's interests? I want to propose that the thing in us that allows us to think this way, the reason we have the capacity to think this way, I think it's a part of the image of God in us, that each of us were created in the image of God. I think this is a part of it because what I'm about to show you from a part of the New Testament is that we can actually know for sure that when we start to think like this, we're actually thinking like Jesus. We're thinking like God himself. When our heart and mind are like this, we actually are able to take on the heart and the mind of Jesus. So there's a guy named Paul. We talk about him a lot. We read a lot of his letters. He wrote over half of kind of the volume of the New Testament. These letters he would write to different churches, much like ours, just a church in a city, in a town, in a village. But Paul, though, first of all, he hated Jesus. He hated kind of this Jesus movement. But then he met Jesus and became one of the most passionate Jesus advocates maybe the world has ever known. And I've read his letters over and over and over. And I've read this particular one. We call it Philippians. He's writing it to the church, the gathering of people, much like this one, in a city called Philippi, which is modern-day Greece. I've read this over and over and over. And Paul really wants us to understand the mindset of Jesus and to understand and encourage us to take on that same mindset. So here's how he puts it. I'll read it to you guys. In Philippians chapter 2, this is starting at the end of verse 3. Paul writes, "In humility, value others above yourselves." Which I feel like we could have just come here. I could have read that. Sermon done, right? Like that's enough for this week. That's enough for the rest of the year. That's probably enough for the rest of our lives, just for us to work hard at somehow doing what Paul says to do here in humility, to value others above yourselves. But then he goes on, not looking to your own interests, not looking to my own interests, but those are my interests. That's what I'm interested in. No, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Now, we're in this series called Check Your Heart. We talk about the heart a lot. Honestly, we talk about the heart more than most things. Like, we don't usually call it the mind. We say like, oh, like from the bottom of my heart or like, deep down in my heart. But the heart is just that thing that like pumps blood, like keeps us alive. It's not like, we're really oftentimes talking about kind of our mind. We're talking about who we are at our core, and we just kind of use the word heart. It's kind of what Paul's doing here, like with, as he gets into the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Like in your core, to think like Jesus, to kind of the seat of your emotions be in the same place as Jesus's was. When you check your heart, for it to be in the same place that Jesus was, which the mindset of Jesus was all about the interests of the others. Now, you may or may not know, Paul was actually had someone write all this down for him in Greek, not in English, but we're really grateful to have these English translations. And I love to dive into some different ones sometime just to help. Paul's talking about something. This is really difficult. I read that and it's like, wow, that's difficult to do, to put someone else's interests above my own. Whew. So I love digging into different English translations. They're going to kind of help us see maybe with more English phrases, maybe some different English phrases to help us understand the exact same thing that Paul wrote in Greek. So this is a translation called The Voice, starting in verse 4. This is how it's translated. Get beyond yourselves. Love that. Just a little more like plain, like, hey, get over yourself. It's not all about you. Get beyond yourselves and get beyond protecting your own interests, which if you look around our culture today, that's a pretty regular thing for people to be kind of protecting our own interests. Be sincere, Paul writes, and secure your neighbor's interests first, like the interests of the others, remember? Secure their interests first. That seems out of order. I need to kind of take care of me and mine. Then maybe if there's some time, money, energy, whatever left over, I could try to help secure the interests of others or the interests of my neighbors. Paul writes, in other words, just adopt the mindset of Jesus. How you saw Jesus live. And we don't have time to read the rest of the passage. I encourage you to. At home, go read the rest of Philippians 2. But he goes on to kind of describe the mindset that Jesus had and how this played out in some pretty big ways in Jesus' life. But one last translation I want to read is called the NIRV. Most of you are probably familiar with the NIV. It's like a really popular translation of the New International Version. This is just the New International Reader's Version, so it's written on a third grade reading level. So if you pass third grade reading, you're good to go. It's a great translation to read. I love sometimes going to it just to see, this is a really difficult thing. God essentially is asking us to do just like the most plain English possible. How would this be worded? Starting in verse 4. None of you should look out just for your own good, but each of you, every single one of us, should also look out for the good of others. As you deal with one another, you should think and act as Jesus did. Pretty plain and simple. And how did Jesus think and act? The interests of others he put above his own interests. Plain and simple. Paul is urging us, if you follow Jesus, then think like Jesus. So to sum up, I would sum it up this way. This is what Paul is writing in this piece of this letter to the Philippians. If you want to think like Jesus, care about what others care about. It's easy to care about what we care about. That's pretty much what we spend our lives doing. We're motivated by the things that we care about. But somehow, live our lives in such a way, we have to check our heart in order to change our heart, guard our hearts, but our hearts need to change. Our mindset, the way we think must change so that we can care about what others care about. But this kind of Jesus mindset to think and act like Jesus did is not a natural thing. It's not a natural human tendency. You don't see a lot of humans doing this. This is not going to be easy, but I believe it's possible. Specifically because of the resurrection of Jesus, because God raised Jesus from the dead. God inaugurated something new in that resurrection of Jesus. And we've been now invited into the possibility of having the same mind, the same heart, the same way of thinking as God himself, which if you stop and think about that just for a moment, that's incredible. It's an incredible invitation. But it's not always going to be easy. Let's take elections for an example. Like voting in elections. You guys with me? Some people put their phones away. I saw a couple heads snapped up. I can't see you guys great, but I can feel the collective blood pressure in the room rise. Just take a deep breath. There's nothing controversial here. I said all the controversial stuff back with Disney World. So this is just an example. Okay, I think this is an easy example to point out this principle. Paul's trying to get us to take on the mind of Jesus. We just had an election, pretty big one. Was it 9 or 10 months ago? November of 24? And around those times, when people are trying to get, a lot of people talk to me about voting, hey, you should vote this way. I see a lot of commercials on TV, right? A lot of ad campaigns, see it all over social media. Everybody that you know on social media, they're saying, hey, you should vote for this person. You should not vote for this person. You should vote for these kind of things, these kind of issues, these laws. You should vote against this. And let me tell you why. All the commercials, millions of dollars. I don't know, they spend billions. I'm ignorant. They spend lots of money, lots of dollars on these commercials to say, you should vote for this person, vote this way because this person, this policy, this party, whatever, is looking out for your interests. We're going to look out for your interests. Don't vote for this one, this candidate. Because they are looking out for the interests of those people over there. They're not looking out for your interests. That's why you got to vote for this candidate. And I don't know, some of you are sitting there which party he's talking about? He's not talking about my candidate. Yeah, I am. All the parties. What party have you ever seen? What person have you ever talked to who said anything different than this? All these millions of dollars spent on these political ad campaigns to tell you to vote this certain way because that person, this policy is going to look out for your interests. This is just what humans do. It's not like a party or a certain candidate thing. This is just the way humans are. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty much the opposite, exactly the opposite of what Paul said to do. It's like the exact opposite of the mind of Jesus, the mind we're supposed to adopt is pretty much anti-Jesus, right? So if we want to vote something, example, like voting, if we want to vote with the mindset of Jesus, we would be looking out for the interests of others. That's tough, right? Because we just don't usually think that way. This is not our lens naturally. through which we look, through which we just go through our lives. We don't have this lens of the interests of others before my own interests. Our natural human lens is my interests, and maybe the very like benevolent ones of us. After we gain enough of our own interests, we can stoop down and look out for the interests of others. But man, through that lens, it's a pretty helpful lens. I think those of us who follow Jesus, who claim to be Christians, this is a really helpful lens through which to view something like voting. I don't think it always makes it clear exactly what to vote for, who to vote for. Like sometimes it does. Sometimes it helps a lot. But at least, even if we like end up voting for different things, at least we've begun as Jesus followers with the same lens. At least we're starting from the same place. Because when I look around the USA and people who claim to be Christians in the USA, I don't see very many people at all, even claiming to attempt to start from this Jesus mindset kind of lens. So unfortunately, we don't have like the handy dandy voting guide brochure, like in the back of our Bibles, like where the maps used to be, if you remember that, like that would be, okay, we don't have that. But we know that we are supposed to think like Jesus. We're supposed to take on the mind of Jesus in every single facet of our lives. The way we vote is just one example that I thought would grab our attention is one way in which, unfortunately, we don't seem to have the mind of Jesus. But how do we start to care about people who care about different things than us? Because that's really the crux of what we're talking about. That's really the toughest thing in all this. And the best way that I've accidentally stumbled into to do this, to care about what others care about, is just to be with these other people, to start to care about them. Because once you spend time with people, you get to know them. Most of us, we're naturally going to start to care about these people. And when you spend more and more time with them, you care about them more and more. You're going to start to learn what they care about. And eventually, you're going to start to care about what they care about. It's a beautiful thing. I think we all kind of know how this works. We've all experienced this in some way. So I think to spend time with others, to begin to care about them, that's the cheat code. This is the life hack, or I don't know, like the Jesus hack, if you will, if I can say that. And we need this because we just don't naturally care about what other people care about. We don't care about their interests. But again, if we just spend enough time with them to start caring about them, that's the secret. I don't think this is a new idea. Like maybe if I can just say it in some ways that'll stick in our brain to care about what the people we care about. Maybe there are groups or people or groupings of people or categories of people whom we don't even know them. Like we don't know any people blank, you fill in the blank, this category of people. We don't really have them in our lives. We don't interact. They're not a part of our life. So naturally, we're not going to care about what they care about. We don't even know them. We probably don't even know what they care about. Or if we did, we don't care because we don't care about them because we don't even know them. Silly example. I grew up liking Star Wars. Like I remember my dad brought home, thought I was old enough, I guess he brought home like that first Star Wars VHS, like we watched. Any Star Wars fans in the house? Some, okay. I was into Star Wars, got married, my wife, she didn't know anything about Star Wars. It was like Star Wars just wasn't her thing. We just, no biggie, just wasn't her interest. It was my interest though. Had kids, I'm like, I kind of want to share that experience with my kids. Star Wars is a really cool thing. It's like nostalgic for me. I watched that with my dad. I want to do that with my kids. So we start watching Star Wars. We watch them starting with episode 4, because that's how I started watching them. So my wife kind of okay, whatever. She's around. And I remember it was towards the end of episode 5, which was the second one we were watching, Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader chops off Luke's arm. My wife, she's there with us. She's folding laundry, just, again, not her interest. Kids, the kids are just into it. We've got lightsabers, cracking my knuckles by this time, they're loving Star Wars. And there's that moment where Darth Vader's like, Luke, I am your father. No joke. My wife stood up, eyes big. What? Seriously? You're 20-something, or I don't know, however old we were, 30-something years old, and you didn't know that? Apologies to anybody, if you were planning to go watch Empire Strikes Back, tonight, 45-year, spoiler, maybe should have alerted you. I tell all that just to say now, fast forward all these years. I mean, when the last one I think came out, we were all in costume, dressed up at the theater, my wife included. Like she's all in, caring about this thing, Star Wars, that she never cared about ever in her life before. Why? Because she's got some people she really cares about who care about this silly thing that George Lucas made up, Star Wars. Something maybe a bit more real. Maybe all your life you'd heard about depression and never really affected you. So you kind of heard it. It just wasn't like an interest of yours until you met someone, maybe befriended someone, began to care about someone who suffered from depression. And all of a sudden, you learned that they cared about that thing deeply. And so because you cared about them, you started to care about it more and more. Maybe you even read books about depression. Maybe you listened to podcasts. Maybe you're learning how to be like a better and better friend to this person. And you just started to care about this thing, this issue that you never cared about before. That's how it works. We all understand that. We've all had ways this happened. I can remember being in grad school. I was almost done with my master's degree. This is like with my classes anyway. This is 2013. And I was taking this bioethics class. It's really exciting, like energetic class. We had this amazing professor and we studied all these bioethics things. And we would have these lively class debates. And it was usually very academic and kind of theoretical, like not a lot of, I don't know, there was some real life stuff, but, cloning humans and stuff like that. And so you could debate the ethics of it. And then all of a sudden, I remember the day we turned to organ transplant, like organ donors. And my mom, just a year before that, had had a double lung transplant at Duke Hospital, extended her life by 8 years. She got 8 extra years, with our family. She got to know all 3 of her grandchildren, which wouldn't have been possible like before that double lung transplant. The amount I cared in that debate, in those class discussions, changed drastically from this theoretical thing to no, like I actually care deeply about this thing because someone I care about deeply cares deeply about this thing. This is not just a debate. This is not just an issue. This is somebody I care about. I hope you guys are thinking of your own journeys at this point. Like you understand, you've been there. We've all experienced this. I'm a middle-class white male living in the USA. So I'm pretty naturally just going to care about the stuff that middle-class white males in the USA care about. But when I start to care about people, like real life people, know their name, interact with them, who are not middle-class white males, maybe from the USA, yeah, maybe not, I just naturally start to care about what they care about, right? We know how this works. And that relationship, that care for another human is what helps me do this very difficult thing of thinking like Jesus. This helps me check my heart. What are the things I care about in my heart? Why don't I care about the things that this person cares about so that I can hopefully start to change my heart to have the mindset, the heart and the mindset of Jesus? Let's just for a moment consider the reverse of this. If we say we care about someone or a group of people maybe, but we don't care about what they care about, do we actually care about them or we just say that we do? Are there issues or things that I don't care about in the least? I'm not talking about Disney World. Hopefully you feel the shit. I'm talking about like real important things of life. Are there important issues that I don't care about? I don't know. I need to check my heart. Do I even know anyone who cares about those things? If you think about that for a minute, I think we as Christians in the USA, we're probably better off to just stop saying that we care about those certain people if we don't care about what they care about. Which again is probably why we need to check our heart, to guard our hearts, like Solomon advised us in Proverbs 4. Because if we ever find ourselves just caring about the stuff that we care about, just our interests, that the people in my family, like, my people care about, it's time to check our hearts because we're not thinking like Jesus. As we wrap up, I'll just sum up this entire series, Check Your Heart. If you missed part 1 or part 2, amazing sermons you should go back and check out. But just to kind of bring it all to a close. In part 1, Chris Brown helped us understand that words reveal your heart. Part 2, Jim helped us see that money reveals your heart. And what we've been talking about today is simply that what we care about, what you care about, reveals your heart because it shows who you care about and possibly who you don't care about. Like Chris Brown said in part 1 of his sermon, if you were here or if you missed it, I'll tell you. He said one of the ways to kind of fill up your heart is to give yourself away. It takes me back to that the end of verse 3. We looked in that passage earlier where Paul writes, in humility, to value others above yourselves, to give ourselves away, to check our heart in order to fill up our heart, to go befriend just some other people. You're going to naturally learn what they care about. And if you truly care about them, you're not going to have to force yourself. We don't have to force ourselves to care about what they care about. You just will. That's just the way it works. I guess God was smart and just designed it this way. It's not like, oh man, I wish I hadn't gone to church today. The guy up there, like the sermon. It's like, now there's all these things. I feel guilty. Like I got to go learn about all these things and start caring about these things that aren't my interests. There's something wrong with my heart because it only cares about, certain stuff. No, it's way better than that. It's way easier than that. Our hearts, I don't think were wired and designed and created to care about stuff and to care about issues, but to care about people. So just go care about people. And then you're going to start caring about the things and the issues that those people care about. It's just going to take care of itself. There's not this really huge monumental effort required. Maybe if they care about Disney World, maybe there is. Just joking. I want to go ahead and invite the band back out. They're going to lead us in a song called King of My Heart, which really this whole series has just been this invitation, I think, to all of us, yes, to check your heart, but also an invitation to, like, who's the king of my heart? Is Jesus and his mindset, is that the king of my heart, of my mind? Is this the core of who I am? Is it the filter through which I'm thinking? I'll leave us, I jotted down this like in my own journal as I was thinking through this, and maybe it's helpful. Those of you maybe you like to write things down in a journal or maybe on your phone. I've got a little check your heart checklist. I'm going to leave this here. Hopefully it won't spill. There's a check your heart checklist, if you will. If you want to snap a photo at the end or just like remember these and just ask yourselves these questions. I encourage you, maybe sometime this week, ask yourselves these questions and legitimately really do the hard work of writing down your answers or jotting them in your phone. Be honest with yourself. Maybe you got a trusted friend, somebody from your small group, somebody you do life with. This could be an awesome conversation as well. So question number 1. What do I care about? Just start to write down the things, just so you can see them. What all do I care about? Question 2. Why do I care about that? Okay, that gets a little more interesting. Like, I'm nervously watching him. I know you guys are too. Well done. Well done to Jim. Why do I care about that? I can start to see the things that are just, I care about them because they're my interests. And maybe you'll start to see the things rise to the top. Oh, that's actually not my interest. Which leads us to question number 3. Who do I say I care about? Not yet who do I actually care about, but who do I say, like with my mouth? Like, oh, maybe I say, I care about all people. Question 4. If I say I care about them, do I even know what they care about? Like, could I write down if I say I care about all these different people, could I even name the things that they care about? Last question. Do I care about what they care about? Because if I don't, that's a good way to check my heart. Probably don't actually care about them. I'm just saying that I do. I'm going to leave us with this prayer too, because I think this isn't something, this is going to be difficult. There's going to be some difficult pieces of this journey if we truly want to begin to take on the mind of Jesus and think like Jesus. So we're going to need God's help. And I think that's part of the power that comes from Jesus' resurrection is we're not invited into something difficult like this without being given the help and the strength to do it. So I think it's just a simple prayer to ask God to be with us in this journey, to help us get there. So here's the prayer that I would encourage us, that I've been praying, that I would invite any of us to pray. Just simply, God, help me have the mind or the heart of Jesus and not just look out for my own interests, but first, that's the difficult part. First, look out for the interests of others. And then just imagine if all of us left this room, all of us who are part of this church, all of us who are hearing this, we leave this room today, we go about our lives Monday to Friday. We were praying this prayer. We were thinking about it. We just became people with the mind of Jesus. And we didn't only look out for our own interests. We started looking out for the interests of others because we care about what the people we care about. Imagine what just happens with like your neighbors who live next to you or your whole neighborhood. Or imagine just with this many people, imagine what starts to happen in our city. Imagine what can happen in the world as we raise our children this way. Let me pray for us before the band will play. God, you're awesome. You're amazing. I'm so thankful that we have this letter that Paul wrote to a church much like ours to tell us what your mind was, Jesus, to tell us that you took on this incredible humility, even though you were God, and you set aside your own interests and you put first the interests of others. And we're invited into that. This is a big thing. This is a big deal, God, and we're going to need your help. Help us somehow in humility care deeply about people. More and more people, not just say that we care about them, but care about them to the extent that we know what they care about and we begin to care about the things that the people we care about. We're asking for your help. We're going to need your help. And we believe through this is part of your kingdom coming. This is part of your design for how you want us to live as we follow you. We're just asking for your help. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks for listening today. If you're in the Charlotte or Matthews, North Carolina area, you're always invited to catch us online or join us in person at one of our 2 service experiences, 9:30 and 11 a.m. in the Ridge Auditorium or streaming live to our cafe venue. We hope to see you soon.